Hi, this is Jeremy Kellett, Director of Recruiting here at Oakley Trucking, and I'm your host for this podcast. This is episode 83 of the Oakley Podcast, Trucking Business and Family. So on today's episode, we got a special surprise for two of our owner-operators that work here at Oakley Trucking. So if you've never watched this podcast on YouTube, I would suggest watching this episode just so you can see the reaction to our owner-operators on this surprise we have for them. It's pretty good, so you want to be sure and check that out. And also joining me with these two owner-operators is their dispatchers. We're going to have them sitting in here with us as we surprise them with a little something this afternoon. So, great episode. Stay with me. But first, let's do an update sponsored by Arrow Truck Sales. Go see Keith Wilson and Trey Visor at Arrow Truck Sales in Springfield, Missouri. Over the past 8 years, Arrow has built a great working relationship with Oakley Trucking. They specialize in getting new owner-operators approved for trucks and upgrading existing ones. Carrying a wide selection of all makes and models, they pride themselves with helping customers through every step of buying a used truck, including service after the sale. Listen to new Oakley owner-operator and Arrow customer Sean McMahon.
Yeah, it's my first time being an owner-operator, so it was first for me, and they made it real easy for me. I wound up getting a 2018 579 Pete with the Cummins 450 and a 13-speed. I worked hauling cars for 15 years, and I've been driving for about 23 years. Yeah, I would send everybody I know to Mr. Keith over there at Arrow Truck Sales. I've had a really good experience with him, and first kind of guy.
When you go see Arrow Truck Sales in Springfield, Missouri, tell them you heard this ad on the Oakley Podcast, and they will give you half off your first payment when financing through transport funding. Give Keith Wilson and Trey Visor a call at 573-216-6047. Okay, on the Oakley update today, I've got number one thing is buying new trucks. So, been checking, if you're thinking about buying a new truck, and we seem to always have guys here wanting to buy new trucks, you better get that order in pretty quick because they are hard to come by. I talked to several dealerships here that we do business with, and I mean, some of them are telling me you can't even get one next year in 2022. It seems like they've had just which I'm sure you guys have heard out there, but you know, got big companies ordering, example, 400 trucks, and they have to call them and tell them they're only getting 100 because that's the production of new trucks is not going to be near as big next year. So keep that in mind if you're looking at ordering or buying a new truck. They're hard to come by. If you find one, you better be ready to pull the trigger on it. The second thing I'd like to talk about is health. I haven't touched much on this. We did an episode a long time ago. It was episode 49. You can go back and listen to it. We did it with Healthy Trucking of America with John Slaughter. And, you don't realize how big health is when it comes to driving a truck. And you being an independent contractor, if you don't work, you don't make any money. You don't generate any revenue. Well, we have seen it here at Oakley a lot, unfortunately, where guys have a tough time taking care of themselves. And it goes with taking the physical, preparing for that ahead of time, not the week ahead of time, but months ahead of time. If you've got issues, whether it's, whatever your health issues are. But I've seen in my experience over the years that it's run guys. It is taking the CDL out of their hands. And I want you guys to be as healthy as possible and make an effort to do it. I had old John Haley in here the other day. He's one of our owner-operators, and he actually signed up and did that back on episode 49 I was telling you about. He has been doing that ever since, and he has really come a long ways and is very healthy now, and he says it doesn't take that much. He was really surprised. So get your health in check and be with us a long time here at Oakley Trucking. And the last thing on the Oakley update, I always try to recognize one of our owner-operators who's been here a long time, and the one I found that's having an anniversary this month is Bobby Newberry. He's truck number 9820 out of Granbury, Texas. He has been with us 15 years this month. What a great asset to Oakley he is. Bobby he gets a job done. I saw him a couple weeks ago, and I always give him a hard time because he got that dirty Oakley hat on. I'm like, man, you got to get a brand new hat. Bobby, we got to keep you in a new hat. So make sure we gave him a couple this time while he was in here. But he's just a great guy. He drives a 2020 Freightliner Coronado. He bought it brand new. Does a great job for us. He pulls an end dump, and I tell you what, it's a joy to. He had a little health scare this past year, but he's back on track and doing well. So glad to have you, Bobby Newberry. You're an asset to Oakley Trucking. Thank you much. All right, let's get started with today's episode. So I got Mr. Randy Fulmer in here and Brent Epley. Randy is an owner-operator with Oakley Trucking, and he's been here almost going on 3 years. He's from Alabama. I can't even pronounce the name of that town.
Anianta.
No wonder I can't pronounce him. And Brent, he's dispatcher here at Oakley, and he's been here, how long, Brent?
Altogether about 10 years.
About 10 years. So, quick introduction. Randy, tell us, listeners, who you are, where you're from, you got a family, what division you're in at Oakley.
I'm Randy Fulmer. I'm from Anianta, Alabama. I'm married. My wife, she used to run team with me, but she's retired. And I've started here at Oakley. February will be 3 years.
Nice.
And
got kids?
Yes, sir, and 13 grandkids.
Wow.
And but I will say this, Oakley has been good since I've been here. Anytime I need to be home for any special occasions, Brent has bent over backwards to get me home when I need to be there.
What do you do on the weekends?
Well, every other weekend I work, or try to stay out, and then go home and then play with the grandkids, work on the truck.
No big hobbies or anything you and your wife like to do?
Well, we like to fish. We'll go fishing every once in a while.
Nice.
And I have taken, a few days off after I stay out for a couple weeks. Brent, don't get mad at me if I take an extra 3 days before I leave out, and we'll, take a short vacation or something like that. And
okay.
And then I work on old vehicles on the side too when I, in. So.
What's the oldest vehicle you got?
Well, I don't have but one right now. My truck had been down 3 weeks, and I sold everything I had, got rid of everything.
Gotcha.
So
what's the one you're working on now?
It's a 2005 Silverado pickup.
Oh, nice. That's right up my alley. Is it a regular cab or extended cab?
Extended cab.
Nice. Did you buy it from somebody, or did you already have it?
Well, it was more or less given to me because it had been wrecked. And
yeah, I like those older model pickups like that. I always liked that. I used to own one. I wished I'd have kept it, of course. That was a 98 GMC half-ton, had the 5-speed in it, the regular cab. I love that thing. Okay, Brent, introduce yourself if you don't care.
My name is Brent Epley. I'm 31. I started Oakley working outside when I was 21. Did that for about 6 years, driving heavy machinery and climbing up the silos, cleaning out pits and tunnels.
Here on the North Little Rock yard?
Yeah.
Okay.
After a while, I needed a change, so I moved out to New Mexico for a while, worked in the oil field and paved highway out there and did construction. And after a year and a half, I came back to Arkansas and hit up John, my old boss, and said, hey, you need another guy? I said, yeah. Came back here, did another 2 years like that or so, and then got the option to come in here. So
right.
I jumped on it, figured I could work in the office and, retire doing that. Better than digging out ditches the whole time.
Well, me myself, I'm glad you did come back.
It was a huge transition for me. If you're working construction and outside and you're working in the oil field, there's a whole nother vocabulary that I do not use at this job anymore.
Good. That's good to know. You got a family, Brent?
I do. I got an old lady and 2 kids. We're going to get married next year on the November 5th.
Nice. How old are the kids?
They are 6 and 8.
That keeps you hopping, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Are you from here?
Yes.
In North Little Rock area?
Yeah, we've lived in lived in Arkansas since I was like 6 years old, and in Cabot since I was 13. I lived in New Mexico for a year and a half.
You and your wife's, what's y'all's hobbies on the weekends?
Motorcycle riding, fishing.
Nice.
We go out and camp quite a bit.
She ride with you on the motorcycle?
Yeah, mine's a big one, so she rides on the back of mine if she feels like it, and she's got her own little motorcycle she rides around on too.
Take them kids yet?
The legal age is 8 years old.
Oh, really?
So
I didn't even know that.
I did take the oldest one when she was 6, but they changed the law. They do we live right across from their school. Love riding around the parking lot on the back.
Oh,
of it.
yeah. That's a good way to do it. Yeah. So, one reason I asked Randy, and he's gracious enough to stop in here and visit with us a little bit, is just, so our listeners, our owner-operators, and even recruits can get an idea of some of our owner-operators' success stories, I call them. And I think Randy's a success story. Don't you, Randy?
Yes, sir.
And tell us how it started here at Oakley. I mean, what made you come to Oakley? And I know before you was telling me you was in pretty bad shape.
Yes, sir. I've owned trucks off and on for the last 40 years. And when California changed over to their new emission laws and everything, I just give it up. That's when my wife was running team with me. We had a dedicated run. So I just, sold the truck and got completely out of it and went to work for another dump truck company out of Birmingham. And it rocked along there about 7 years. I'd done spent all my money I'd made, and I was broke. Couldn't hardly pay my bills. And I read an ad on Oakley. Before I sold my last truck, it was one of y'all's drivers, Oakley drivers, tried to talk me into coming up here, but I was just fed up with it. So I just went ahead and sold the truck and got out of it. Bad mistake. But anyway, when I come to work here, I didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. I had to go without eating a time or two during the
orientation
because I did not have the funds. I borrowed what money I could to buy an old truck, and after I was here for not even a month, it broke down. Didn't have much warranty on it, and all the DEF system went out on it, everything.
Well, I bet you thought right then, this ain't good.
I knew it wasn't good, and I prayed about it and got it in the shop, and they started working on it. The company I bought the truck from, they finally helped out a little bit with it, but the biggest majority of it I had to come up with money, and I finally sold some stuff and borrowed some more money, and Oakley, y'all offered to help me with it, but I wanted to get it, had to make it myself.
Right. So
I got that straightened out, and just make a long story short, since then, like I said, at one time I owned 3 trucks. And even with those 3 trucks, did not make the money that I'm making with Oakley now.
Really?
Yes, sir. I am more than satisfied with the revenue that comes in from Oakley.
Is it beyond what you expected?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Because I guess you'd been in trucking all these years and was just getting by, and then you finally got fed up, and then you took a leap of faith to buy another truck and come to Oakley.
Yes, sir. And that's the best business decision I have made in my life coming over here. If a driver or anybody that can't make it here, there's something bad wrong. Wouldn't be Oakley. It would be something bad wrong with their work ethics.
So, because the work's here, huh?
The work is here sometimes more than what you want.
Right. You mean Brent, he gives you a little more than you want sometimes, huh?
I don't know if you care if I tell what some of my settlements has been.
No, go tell whatever.
It wouldn't be nothing there'll be a stretch there for a month. Settlements will be anywhere from $4,000 to $5,000 every week after everything has come out.
That's awesome.
And that's, staying out 2 weeks. And then, if it falls below 2,000,
Something went wrong.
my truck's either broke down or I'm lazy.
Right.
Because Brent, he keeps me going.
A big part of being an owner-operator is managing your money.
Yes, sir.
And I guess you and your wife know how to do that pretty well.
Well, like I said, I've owned trucks before, and I know just any time, just like when I first started, there'll be something big jump out and bite you.
Yeah.
So it's always best to not try to live above your means and just, put money back each week just for a major breakdown. Try to, have $20,000-$30,000 in an account that you don't touch just for,
That's what I was going to ask you. How much do you keep set aside to, just for that?
Try to stay above $20,000 just for breakdowns, because a transmission, if you don't have warranty, that's $8,000, $9,000, $10,000.
Yeah, you got to be prepared for that stuff.
And this last breakdown I told you I had here, I was down for 3 weeks. Some of it was my fault. The back box on the transmission went out about 2 weeks after the warranty did.
Yeah.
So I had to pay for that, and then I had exhaust leak. So I had a new manifold put on.
Doesn't it feel good to have that money, though, to be able to fix those things when something goes wrong? You're able to. I mean, it's got to feel good to be able to have that and do it, because there's a lot of people out there that don't.
And anyway, after they got the manifold off, they got to looking, and the turbo was shot. They told me if I'd run it another 1,000 miles, it would have went through the motor.
Yeah.
So, with the grace of God, I had enough money to fix everything wrong with the truck, plus stay down 3 weeks and not be broke at the end of it.
Yeah. That's a testament of how you work, though, and how you manage your money, which is a way to do it. So he get the job done, Brent?
Oh, yeah.
Does he?
Definitely.
Easy to dispatch?
Very. Yeah, he's got no qualms about where he goes. I mean, there's places he doesn't like, but, we do our best to listen to folks and take care of them as best we can. But, he's also been great about understanding, well, sometimes you're the truck in the area, and we've told him we're going to take this load. So
yeah,
he'll go do it for us.
Well, now, a while ago, coming up here, he said he wanted to choke you the first week. Was that? What'd you say,
Yeah.
Randy?
It was the first time I met him.
Yeah.
Well, I made a special point for him to get me in here so we could have a face-to-face conversation.
Yeah.
And
That helped?
not for a while it did. Well, he was just getting started in on the dump truck. That was when you first started on.
Yeah, I switched over from sand dispatch, working night shift, to working daytime for dump trucks, and the two worlds are different.
Yeah.
They don't really correlate to each other. In sand dispatch, you know where you're going. Your job is to keep the sand coming in. Coming over to dumps, it's really fast paced. You got to figure out where you're going. You got to plan ahead. You've got to find the loads. You don't know where you're going to go yet most of the time.
Yeah.
You got to figure out where you're going and plan out the week, which was a brand new experience for me. And then with last year tagged on top, it wasn't any easier.
So it started off a little rocky, but
these days, it ain't nothing unusual not to only get the dispatch for the load that you're going on. You might get 2 dispatches ahead, where you got to go after you get this one off, so you can plan to get your time to get there.
that helps, doesn't it?
And I call in every morning and aggravate him about 7:30. And then usually around 3:30 in the evening, I'll call back and let him know where I'm at and where I'm going to be the next morning.
Okay. Pulling an end dump pretty easy for you?
Well, I've done it off and on for 40 years, pulling an end dump. And most of the time it's easy, but they are some hard parts. It's dirty work sometimes.
Right.
But you always got a smile on your face when you go in somewhere and you see these flatbeds and dry boxes and reefers sitting in line for 2 miles, and you just go around and go in, dump, and come out.
Yeah, and they wonder what you're doing. Hey,
Yeah, you might get a little dirty while you're doing it, but you're not sitting there.
well, dump trailer's not for everybody. I mean, we know that it takes a special person to be able to do that, and there's a lot of responsibility when it comes to pulling a dump trailer. I feel like when you're dealing with customers and the product and the contamination factor that you throw in there, that we put some responsibility on you. So,
Well, that and scrap yards and
yep,
getting a good place to dump. And I don't care who you are. It's not a matter of say that you've never messed up doing with a dump trailer. It's just a matter of time. Everybody's going to have a little bit of a scrape. It's unavoidable. Some of the places we go in,
yep,
but the good thing about it, I've been a tailgate. We're supposed to sidebar the gate, and I got to a place that there weren't really room to do that, to back into where I had to dump, load iron ore. And the guy was supposed to have been watching me, and I raised it up, and I bent the hinges on the gate.
oh man,
But it was my fault. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have went by what that guy was telling me. I should have got out and checked. Oakley didn't get all upset, hollering and yelling at me or whatever. I paid for the hinges. I offered to do it because I knew it was my mess up. And but anytime you have a little scrape or something like that, y'all don't get upset at you, and
it's part of the job.
you treat drivers with respect.
Yeah. Every year in October, we haven't done it the last 2 years. We have a company party, and I guess you've been part of that because the last two we've canceled. But we have a big party here at North Little Rock Yard, and we have like a big awards. Everybody gets an awards. Been here for so many years. We have, all kinds of. We have Driver of the Year awards. Each dispatcher picks one of their owner operators as Driver of the Year, and because of the job he's done, and we have safety awards and all kinds of stuff in October, and we hadn't been able to have that, which is unfortunate. But hopefully next year we'll have that. But anyway, that was one of the reasons too I wanted to talk to you or get you up here, Randy, and visit with you, because Brent had mentioned he had something to tell you. So I'll let Brent take it from here.
Yeah, it's been since that last time you wanted to choke me since I seen you. And a lot of times passed by. But
Yeah.
this next time, though, I've picked you as Driver of the Year.
Well, I appreciate that. I don't know what to say about that.
Yeah, I don't know why you're so surprised.
I figured you had my picture somewhere with a dartboard throwing darts at me at times.
No, honestly, I had to walk up to Roger, and I was like, man, I know he's only been here for X amount of years, but has he been Driver of the Year before? I had to make sure you weren't so I could pick you. I figured somebody done picked you by now.
So tell us, Brent, why he's Driver of the Year for you. Out of all the guys, 41 guys you got, Mr. Randy Fulmer is your owner-operator of the year. Why is that?
I picked him this year just because when you really get down to it, everything that we expect of a driver, like the communication, being on point, showing up on time, taking care of the loads, filling us in with information if bad stuff happens, and just everything that you pretty much want in a driver. Well, Randy personifies it.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it. He's extremely easy to dispatch, like I said earlier. There's some places he won't want to go, and I try to keep him away from them, but if we have to go, he'll go. And he's, I don't know, I just like him.
Yeah. Well, congratulations, Randy Fulmer.
Thanks, sir.
No problem.
It's an honor to be owner-operator of the year for each dispatcher, and I've met you, I think we were talking earlier, maybe twice. Might have met you in orientation and then again today, and just a few minutes I've spent with you, I can sure see why Brent would pick you.
Thank you.
We're grateful to have you as an asset. You're an asset to Oakley Trucking, and we appreciate everything you've done here over the last 2.5 years, and hope we got some more out of you.
Well, I was telling Brent that my truck will be paid for in just a little over a year, and I've got to keep this truck until then. But I'm wanting to order me one more brand new truck, something I've never been able to do, but at this point I could. And I'm wanting to get me one with the Oakley colors and set up the way I would like to have it, but my wife's wanting me to retire. So we'll just have to wait and see who wins out over that one.
I listen to the real boss, don't we?
Yeah. Well, good. Well, we hope you're able to get that new truck and get what you want and enjoy it, and enjoy your rest of your career here at Oakley. And
I do. I enjoy working here. It's aggravating, with pressure on you sometimes, getting loads where it needs to be at the correct time. But Brent, he don't never pressure me on any of the loads. Demanding it's got to be here at some certain time or whatever. I pretty well know what time it's got to be there. And there's only one place I don't like going. And but if I'm in that area and I got to go, I will go. So
part of it. Well, I appreciate you sitting up here with us, taking your time out of your day to visit with us and tell us your success story. It was really good, and congratulations on Owner Operator of the Year.
Thanks, sir.
On part of today's episode, I have got one of Oakley's finest joining me today to talk about his career with Oakley Trucking and how he has been successful in the dry bulk industry. Mr. Dean Baylor from Santa Fe, New Mexico. How you doing, Mr. Dean?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you coming in here and telling us a little bit about your story. If you would, before we get started, I always like to get an introduction. Let people know out there that's listening who they're talking to, who they're listening to. Can you help us with the introduction? Maybe where you are, where you're from, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Family.
sure. Yeah, no, grew up in California actually, and then moved around. Started trucking when I was in Montana, then to New York City, and kept driving there down to Florida, and then kind of looped back around. So now I'm in Santa Fe, New Mexico these days.
Nice.
And I've been driving about 37 years.
Wow.
Started the trucking, like I say, in Montana, and was actually on a ranch. And so they had so many different vehicles to drive and ride around in that I ended up doing mobile homes, drop decks, flatbeds, dry vans, reefers, belly dumps. Pretty much
a lot of experience just doing that.
Pretty much everything I'd say except car carriers. And then when I got here, of course, because I had never done bulk before, I've not done end dumps, and I have not done pneumatics. Now, when I got hired, the guy that hired me, or the guy that recruited me, he was actually recruiting me to do pneumatic, and they wanted to put me into hopper for a little while to just, I guess, test me out, build up some escrow.
Right. See if you can do it.
Yeah, and
good.
I liked it so much, I just said I'll stay here. So.
What about family? You got family?
I do. I'm the oldest of 6 kids. I'm married to a wonderful girl named Betty. We've been married for about 22 years now.
Oh, nice.
And she's a Columbia girl.
Nice. Do y'all have any kids?
No children. Never had any kids. And she holds down the fort in Santa Fe and keeps everything going.
Hobbies?
I used to have a lot of different hobbies, but I really focus on the work these days. I used to be a voracious reader, but when my eyes as you get a little bit older, your eyes aren't so great, so I don't read as much as I used to.
Right.
But really, I was a big sports guy, is really what I love to do. Basketball, football, baseball.
Keeping up with it?
Yep, still. I was. The Dodgers lost the other night. That's my team.
Oh, the Dodgers were? They couldn't pull it out, could
No,
they?
they couldn't pull it out. They were eliminated, so...
Yeah, I watched it. They had some great games in that series right there. I mean, they had some good games.
Yeah, no, when I was a kid, we'd go to about 25 Dodger games a year there at Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles, and so we were huge fans. And So I was a little heartbroken over that, but I get over it.
Was Mary Hart still sitting in that same seat as she is now?
No, she wasn't, but it seems like it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. It does. Well, good stuff. Also, we got joining me and Mr. Dean is his dispatcher, Russell V. I call him Russell V. Russell Vallance. He's hanging out with us today. What's going on, Russell?
Not much.
Now, you was on a previous podcast, a previous episode at some point, so quick introduction of yourself so the listeners, they can go back and listen, or you can just give them a short version
All
here.
right. Well, my name's Russell Vallance. I live in Valonia, Arkansas, and married, have 3 kids, and I dispatch hopper bottoms.
How old are they?
Carter is 17, Sawyer is 14, and Grace is 10.
Oh, all over the board.
Yep.
And I heard you got a great neighbor over there on the street over.
He's not so great.
It's me.
I figured that out.
Good, yeah. Good neighbors. Well, good. What do you do on the weekends? I know. Tell everybody else.
Hunting and fishing. That's kind of my deal. Hunting, fishing, and a lot like Dean, sports. My boys play basketball. My daughter dances, and that fills up all of our time.
Yeah, you're a busy man, I know for sure. That's good. You know, it was I had a quick thought, Dean, when you said you were one of 6 kids. I stayed with the guy. He's actually retired from Oakley, Steve Taylor, over in Port 33, and I spent the night with him. I was fishing over there on that lake of his, and he is one of 12 kids. Okay.
Wow.
And they're all, and he's like 70, and all 12 of them are still alive.
Oh, jeez.
Which, you know, it may not, to me, sounds amazing. And
Yes.
is it the mother and father, or just one of the parents, I think, are alive?
Well, that's an accomplishment.
Isn't that something?
Yeah. Well, I'm the oldest of 6, and already 2 of my younger siblings have passed.
Yeah.
So it's
12 of them still going.
wow.
So anyway, that's a little side note there. Always try to find good owner-operators with Oakley to try to get up here and visit with us and educate our audience on what's going on at Oakley Trucking, trying to keep people up to date, and along with dispatch too. And we've done a lot of dispatch shows where kind of keep it going and what it's all about here at Oakley Trucking. And I appreciate you coming on and doing this in short notice, as if I called you Friday and you're here Monday to do it. But, you know, give maybe some of our owner-operators or people listening, you gave a little bit of your background, but didn't you come from a company driver
Right. Yeah.
to buy a truck and come to owner-operator?
Exactly.
How hard is that step?
Well, it was much easier than I thought, and I tell people that when I recruit them, because as it turns out, I was actually able to recruit 6 people since I've been here, and which was easy to do because the first thing I do, of course, is I just show them my pay stubs, and that is how you get their attention initially. If that doesn't grab them right off the bat, then you don't need to go any farther. But step number 2 really is the biggest obstacle is they're really intimidated by getting a truck.
Yes.
And what I found is that once you contacted the folks here at Oakley, and especially in my particular case, my recruiter was Dustin, he was able to give me lots of different phone numbers of people that you could call and get different ideas as to what kind of deals you could get on the trucks. And consequently, when I recruited the 6 people over, that turned out to be, really, really valuable, very useful.
Because you could tell them the process you went through.
Exactly. And so those are really the 2 biggies. How much money are you going to make, and how do I get a truck? Now, the other stuff is important too, but those are the 2 big ones that I can see.
Now, I've heard through the grapevine you're a numbers man. I was actually cheating. I was looking at some of Dustin's notes when he recruited you, and he likes to crunch numbers.
Yeah, I do.
So did the numbers make sense?
Yeah, they did. They really did. And, I tend to look at things like, when I first asked Dustin, well, what does an average hopper driver make in a given week? And he was giving me a number that really didn't make sense to me. And I realized later that he was just taking the whole group and averaging it. But I tend to look at it as, was I going to be one of these guys working 5 days a week and then taking 2 days off? Or was I going to be the guy working 7 days a week? And because I'm in Santa Fe, I've got to do the 7 because you guys can't run me home that often.
Right.
So I actually broke that down differently. So for me, when he says it was around 2,600, that I didn't pay any attention to that. I wanted to know. So in the course of talking to everybody, I realized that most of the drivers are in the 450 mile a day range. So if you work 5 at 450, you're going to average around 2250 a week if you're in that group. But if you're going to work 7 days a week and you multiply by 450, then I should be around 3150 on average. And, at the end of every year when I do my taxes, I sit down and I break it all down to see about, what I'm doing. And sure enough, I'm right around 3150 on my average for the mileage.
Nice.
And so I've been able to maintain the 450 a day that the guys on 5 days a week, are swinging. Because if you really need to do 3150 a week to make the same amount of money as somebody doing 2250, then that has to be an average. So there'll be some weeks when you're a little bit below that, and a few weeks when you're a little bit above that. But that's kind of how I look at it.
And that gave you the confidence to be able to buy a brand new truck.
You bet. Yeah. I really didn't. I tell people, look, if you're going to make this amount, and this amount, don't worry about the size of the monthly truck payment, because once you've divided that by 4.34 weeks in a month, and when I break that down, I'll just tell you, my monthly payment is $25.57.
Right.
And it sounds really intimidating. But we get paid here weekly, and I get paid well here weekly. And when you break that down, it only comes to $589 a week.
Right.
So if you're going to take home $3,000 or $4,000, whatever it may be, the $589 is really not a concern. No. And that's how you convince people to come over, is you have to break it down into pieces that they can swallow.
Right.
And understand that it's not intimidating, and it's not something that can't be done by anybody.
Plus maybe a peace of mind of a brand new truck compared to a used truck.
Right, which I strongly recommend the new trucks, because again, I've spent a lot of time crunching the numbers on those. And you will definitely spend less money on a new truck with a large payment than you will on an older truck that's constantly in the shop.
So were you one of the first ones to come over from your previous company? You said you recruited 6 people.
Yep. A really terrific driver named Mike Durbin. Mike called me up. We were working together over at the previous company, and I probably crossed the Canadian border about 2,000 times in about a 3 or 4 year period. I was shuttling freight from Montreal to Champlain, back and forth, and Mike was one of the guys that, when I came back across with these tanks from Canada, he'd pick them up and he'd relay them down to Kentucky.
I got you.
So that's how we met, and he told me he was coming over here, and like everybody else, the money sounded really, really great, and I thought, well, I'll watch you for a little while, and about 6 months later, I came over, and he's the one that recruited me.
Well, good. And then that gave you the confidence to...
When I saw his checks were for real, and he told me a lot of other things too. It's not just the money, of course, but that's what you look at first. When I saw how well he was doing, it was pretty easy to see.
Take a minute and hear from our sponsor, Lube Zone. This year, Lube Zone has been a proud sponsor of the Oakley Podcast. We have enjoyed telling you about all the discounts, services, and locations Lube Zone offers to keep Oakley trucking owner-operators running smoothly over the road. Stop by during the final quarter of 2021 and you can still receive a $40 discount on your next PM using Shell and Dello oil brands at any of their locations. Plus, until New Year's Eve, save $15 off any 3-axle alignment. Fast is back at LubeZone. Check out lubezone.com and stop by any location to take advantage of their superior service. When you're over here for a little while, then that makes it easier to recruit somebody else, these other guys, because when you're recruiting, you don't want to set somebody up to fail. You want to make sure that you're giving them a good product. Now, whether they want to do it or not is up to them, and a lot of it's up to your work ethic.
Right, exactly.
And how you operate.
Exactly. And, a lot of it is very personal, because, one of the things that I was doing is I was actually sending copies of my paycheck to the guy's wife.
That's the way to do it.
Because, see, that's how you convince, if you can convince the wife that it's a good idea to come over, then, she will help you convince the husband.
Right.
But the downside there is that if you mislead them, you're misleading their entire family. And so from an ethical point of view, you have to be really careful about what you say to people.
So what was the drive to do that? Not to get stuck on recruiting other guys here, but what was the drive for you to do that besides the recruiting bonus?
Well, these guys were friends of mine. Most of these guys that I recruited were working with me up there on the Canada project, and they were not making anywhere near as much money as I was making down here. And it's like anything else. You you have friends and you like them and you want them to do better and have a better life and more money and et cetera, et cetera. And so it was pretty easy for me to, call them up and have them come on down.
Well, I can tell you those, they've been good ones too.
They have.
Yeah, they've been some good ones.
They have.
You guys had a good little network over there of quality truck drivers, and to be able to produce them into owner-operators over here at Oakley has been great for us, and I'm assuming it has been for them too.
Yeah. I think everybody's been very happy with their experience here.
So, working in the hopper division, you came over to eventually pull a pneumatic, but what made you say hopper is nice?
Well, I know I like the work. It's very simple, straightforward, and I had a good fleet manager, and I know about that, and I know it sounds like I'm maybe being a little kissy here, but I've been doing this for 37 years, and it didn't take me very long to realize that he really knew what he was doing, and I've told him this. He knows how to piece loads together as well as anybody I've ever worked with, and so that really is a big help. That somebody is looking out 2 and 3 loads out. Yeah, exactly.
You do much of that pre-planning, Russ?
We try real hard to, but it is easier when you have someone like Dean that stays out longer periods of time. He doesn't have to be to a certain point by a certain date.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people realize how difficult that can be to get out and back in. On every weekend sometimes can be a challenge for sure, unless you got the right freight. So
yeah, because the continuity actually will make you more money, but then of course you miss out on the home time. So the way I've generally been doing it, I was asked to stay out at least 3, and I've been usually going 5 or 6, and then I'll take, instead of taking my 2 days off on the weekends, I'll just take 5 or 6 of those 2-day weekends and add them together, and I'll go home for 10 or 12.
And that works for you and your family?
It works for us. My wife is very good about it. I was very fortunate that, when I married my wife, we were both older when we got married, and so she had already lived on her own for a number of years, and she's not really, the kind of lady who needed to be babysat, so to speak, and I didn't have to be there all the time. So we talk several times a day, and she's good with it. She's a perfect wife for a trucker, I think.
So what's the worst part about driving a truck?
Probably just not seeing your family. Yeah.
What's the best part?
I love the travel. I mean, I've always had a little bit of wanderlust, and the fact that I can get in a truck and see the whole country for free has always been a real bonus. I've been in all the states except Alaska and Hawaii, and I almost made it to Alaska once, and then I found out that that was they basically trying to send me across a line that they were having a strike, and then they weren't going to tell me that. And then the strike settled, and so I never did make the fish load to Alaska. But
and this was a previous company, a long time
No,
ago.
This was like 20 years ago, a long time ago. And then all the Canadian provinces. So this is the kind of thing that I probably never ever would have done or seen had I not been a truck driver. So I really do enjoy the travel part.
What about the dry bulk? You had never done that before. And
no,
that's all new to you.
Yeah. Well, I actually found that I actually find it easier than retail, because when you haul retail and you go into a customer on the East Coast, whether it was reefer or whatever it might be, I'd be one of 55 trucks all fighting for a dock space. Whereas with bulk, occasionally you'll come up behind somebody who's maybe in front of you or 1 or 2 people. But generally speaking, I find that I get loaded and unloaded much faster with bulk than I do with retail.
Yeah. And that's the worst thing truck driver can tell you is having to sit constantly or wait.
Right, exactly.
Exactly. I would think it would be a lot easier too. So you've been here a couple years, 2, 3 years?
Almost 2.5 now. Almost
nice.
Coming up on 2.5.
Okay, well that's good. Well, you haven't got to experience one of our company parties, have you?
I did come to one, but it was one of these deals where I was making a delivery in Dangerfield and tried to get back here for the very tail end of it, and they'd already put all the food away.
Oh, you missed it, huh?
So that means everybody else got to eat.
Yeah, that's right. Me and Russell did. That's
yeah,
sure.
we had a good night.
Well, I hate you missed that. That's because we canceled the one last year, 2020. We canceled the one this year, 2021. Hopefully next year we'll have one. But it's a great setting. We do it every October, Dean, and it's a great setting to where we recognize people, employees been here 5, 10, 15, 20 years. We recognize owner-operators been here. I mean, we got, safety awards, and it's really good, a good time to do it, and being able to recognize the people you work with and stuff. So you got to try to make sure you make it next time. But to kind of bring you up to speed on, this year, this would be the time that we have it in October,
Right.
And we recognize a lot of owner-operators. And we have each one of our dispatchers out here, matter of fact, they get to pick them and their owner-operator of the year that works for them. And it's just, get to announce it and everybody and get a plaque and all that stuff. And it just, which brings us to this point that I wanted to let Russell share this information with you. Go ahead, Russell.
Well, to kind of build off of that, you're going to be my owner-operator of the year for this year.
I didn't know that.
We wanted to bring you in to not only interview you, but recognize you as well as being the owner-operator of the year, and just let you know that we appreciate
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
what you're doing.
What makes
for us.
him owner-operator of the year, Russell?
Well, he's pretty unique in a lot of ways. One being that he lives in New Mexico. He's the only guy that we have that lives out that far. He's always on time. If he tells you he's going to be there, that's when he's going to be there. Stays out longer than most people do. Like you mentioned earlier, he's staying out 5 and 6 weeks at a time, and anything I throw at him, he does it with a smile and a good attitude, and he'll go wherever. There's never any doubt, and any apprehension in his voice. If I say, hey, you're going to New York, he says, okay, and there's no batting an eye. He gets the job done and very well.
That goes a long ways.
Yes.
Just from inside the office, that goes a long way when you're trying to do your job.
It does. Just a willingness to help wherever he can be helped. Whatever load there is to be done, Dean gets it done.
Which proves you are Russell's owner-operator of the year, Dean.
Well, thank you. I had no idea. That's very nice of you. Thank you.
Well, it's something that we don't take it lightly here at Oakley. I mean, we know you guys have a tough job out there on the road and what you do every day, and we got 800 owner-operators, and a lot of them do things different. But when you are selected by dispatch as one of the owner-operators of the year, that means not only do you get the job done in a positive manner and take care of our customers, which is ultimately the number one thing, but it's also safety. Safety's right up there at number one. You got to take care of safety, our customers, your paperwork, your just willingness to communicate, your truck that you drive, the trailer, how you represent Oakley well every day, and you do that to a T, Mr. Dean. So congratulations on
Thank you.
on being Russell's owner-operator.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Anything you guys like to add?
No, just
Good.
Thank you. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Mr. Dean, thanks for sharing your story, and I got a feeling it's going to go a long ways with some other guys out there listening, and you'll probably take some ribbon from some of your buddies you brought over here, but that's okay.
Okay.
You keep them coming because we need more good owner-operators like that, and we appreciate everything you do for us. So,
Okay.
thanks again for listening to the Oakley Podcast. We really appreciate you guys tuning in to us every week. We want you to help spread the word about this Oakley Podcast, especially to our owner-operators. I was in here the other day, and we had a lot of owner-operators coming through doing this ELD training, this geotab, and I was talking to one in there the other day, and I mentioned the Oakley Podcast to him, and he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I was like, well, come on now. You got to get on the train here. So I shared it with him and sent him a link, and just to make sure our owner-operators know that we have this, because we use this as a tool to communicate with you guys every week and your families, and just to keep you up to date on what's going on in Oakley Trucking. So be sure and share it with everybody. Watch it on YouTube. If you like to watch it, you can see what me and Russell and Mr. Dean look like. How about that? Who'd want to do that? But no, we appreciate y'all staying with us, and we'll talk to you again next week. Thanks.